Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Greetings, everybody. Alrighty then.
Hey, Owen.
Hello.
Got about the most least enthusiastic start from the Discord server I think we've ever had. Literally no one said hello.
Hello, Discord. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you very much for salvaging that introduction. Wonderful. Thank you. Very good to have you here. Any signs of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
Not even from an abstraction.
No, only from an abstraction.
Thank you for correcting me.
We were just discussing it in the pre-show. Anyway, any signs of
under
axial?
some bridge?
The bridge? You want me to mention the Alberuni Bridge again? I don't mind going through the Alberuni Bridge if you want, if that's what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the pre-show, we were discussing the transition from the abstraction that is a mathematically based geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature. And that mathematical abstraction is reified into existence in argument as though it's the world we stand upon. But it only exists in maths. That would be the geometric horizon, as I say, Earth curvature. So there is a bridge, a transition from the abstraction that is the mathematics, only exists in the maths, Earth curve is a mathematical construction, to a claim that it exists in physical reality. Well, that's Alberuni, who is claimed to measure the geometric horizon. So it's at that stage that you have the transition from the abstract, only exists in maths, to the real. Alberuni is under the impression he is actually measuring a geometric sphere edge known as Earth curve. He isn't, because it only exists in maths and cannot be seen, cannot be measured to. But it is that point that the story of Alberuni is the verbalization of the reification from mathematical Earth curve to real Earth curve. When there is no real Earth curve, it only exists in maths. So Alberuni is that transition from abstract maths to physical real.
The geometric horizon, whatever that is, that word soup.
Word soup, word salad, Earth curve, you mean?
Yep.
So check it out on Ballbusters this weekend. We were covering Soundly's nonsense, and he was he was put to task and asked about this black swan, whether he was aware of it. And when it was explained that if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to horizon measurement can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Now that's the assertion that we have Earth curve. And his response to that was, oh, that's a load of old word salad about the geometric horizon. It's like, what, that thing that you thought you were measuring and taking photos off there, Soundly? That's Earth curve there, mate. What, word salad? Yeah, we agree. Total word salad, this whole nonsense about having an Earth curvature. Geometric horizon. No, we don't have one. It's just word salad. Only exists in maths, mate. Not really in physical reality. You weren't actually photographing it. numpty.
Yeah, they were the gardeners of that word salad. We're just making it now.
Yeah. Word salad gardeners. You were telling us all about how we used to see this mathematics of an R value, and now we're told we don't see it by your own bloody brethren.
So let me get this straight. He takes pictures of a bridge and says it's Earth curve. And then when you press him so it can match the actual radius of the Earth, he's saying the Earth curve is on. He says it's word salad.
Correct. He doesn't understand that a geometric horizon is the fundamental basis of his religion in an Earth that's spherical. When it was put to him with the actual mathematics of an Earth that's spherical, he said it was word salad.
Wow.
We're dealing with
gone for a
clowns.
while.
They don't
He was
even
around when
understand
they
the
were
tenets of their own religion. They literally don't understand what they believe in.
Yeah, he was gone for a minute. He was around back when, you know, they used to call it Earth curve, and boats used to hide, be able to be hidden behind this physical Earth curve, right? Then he takes a little hiatus. He comes back, and all of a sudden, we're calling it the geometric horizon, and he thinks that's word soup. Meanwhile, all his boys have already told us we don't see this geometric horizon. What you used to call the Earth curve, yeah, we don't see that anymore.
So wait a minute. He takes 3 years to go take pictures of
Your
Lake
soup,
Pontchartrain.
you made it.
So he takes 3 years to take pictures of Lake Pontchartrain. He doesn't realize the argument has shifted. He comes back and they say, forget your pictures of Lake Pontchartrain. It doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Well, it wasn't put to him like that.
Side.
The claim, based on his pictures, doesn't exist anymore. The Earth curve that was claimed to be photographed by him only exists in mathematics.
Yeah.
Moving-
Well,
Go on.
go on. No, that's it.
Okay, moving on.
There's nothing more to say here.
Excellent. Well, might as well ask the question. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius? Feel free to pipe up, Discord.
Black Swan.
Very active Discord today.
I've got half of them on mute, to be fair. They've all joined since the intro.
Well, unmute them. Let's hear if someone's going to say something on this question.
Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
At best.
At best.
At best, the Black Swan would have debunked the R value. That would be a correct statement made by Mr. Sensible. Or let's take a few of the others. We cannot see the geometric horizon. We wouldn't expect to see the geometric horizon. The geometric horizon cannot be seen. The geometric horizon only exists in maths. We wouldn't expect to see the geometric horizon. Oh, so many beautiful quotes.
Yeah.
What happened to the sound effects?
At best, you will find more R's in the word soup.
There's a lot of R's in that word, Soup Soundly. A lot of R's.
I remember the sound effects. We cannot see the geometric horizon.
Oh, my bad. It's like we used to call it the geometric horizon hand wave, as in Star Wars. These aren't the droids you're looking for. So we do not see the geometric horizon. They wave their hand and you go, oh, right, I see. That all makes sense now. What exactly was blocking boats and buildings again?
That's the Jedi mind trick, man. They tried to get us with the old Jedi mind trick.
No, boat, it only exists in the maths. Oh, so it wasn't blocking boats and buildings then.
You're forgetting about optics, Nathan.
Optics, welcome to Flat Earth. That would be our argument. Your maths is turned side on 90 degrees in Muppet vision, otherwise known as orthographic view, and the targets that you're looking at and claiming are blocked by Earth curve don't change in their apparent size. Now, if you move away from something, its angular size, its apparent size gets smaller. Things get smaller with distance. Now, that's ignored in Earth curve maths completely, because a 10-foot wall in Earth curve maths is 10 feet at 1,000,000 miles. Now, for this reason, their removal of perspective from their Earth curve maths, we get asked how we could have a horizon at all on a flat Earth. Because in their pea-brain minds, unless Earth curves getting in the way, things never ever disappear with distance. Because a 10-foot wall, if you draw it in orthographic view with your side of your own head on the left-hand side, and the target on the right-hand side, you can draw a line between those two things in side view when you can see the side of your own head, like the Earth curve maths. And you can write 1 million miles on it, on that little line. And there's no horizon between the two things, because that's how orthographic view works. Now, that 10-foot wall at 1 million miles is going to be virtually zero angular size. Infinitesimally small. Because it's so far away. Therefore, you can't see it anymore. Your eyes aren't that good. You haven't got that big a hole in your eye to let the light from 1 million miles in. But in their maths, it's still visible. Because it removes, I'll correct myself, hijacks the effects of perspective and calls them Earth curve. Now, I'll be the first to point out when they say, well, why would we have a horizon? Well, why would we see the side of our own head, like we do in your mathematics for Earth curve assertion, when hijacking perspective? Because the sizes of your buildings are always the same feet and inches or metres value, regardless of the distance to them. So a 100-foot building's 100 foot, with you saying, why is 30 feet missing? Well, what about the angular size? It's got smaller. Oh, well, we don't need to account for that. We don't need to worry about that. It's geometry. Oh, right, requiring a geometric horizon, then, to be blocking this 30 feet, not accounting for angular size. It's Muppet vision. They don't have perspective in Earth curve maths. The whole thing's a joke.
May I add to that?
Funny how they always want to talk. I'm sorry, Tough Man, real quick. Funny how they always want to talk about angular size when it comes to the sun. But then when it comes to their curve math, nah. Let's not talk about that.
Let me add, thank you, Chocolate. Let me add to that the most recent responses since the Black Swan is that it doesn't work on the flat Earth. It doesn't work on the flat Earth. Well, I'm going to quote Andrew Thomas Young here, that all of his refraction calculations do work on the flat Earth because he says so. He says all of his, not some of it now, guys. He says all of his refraction calculations came from plane surfaces, flat Earth. And then he says, if you want to make it into a sphere, let's use some mathematics. So when you say refraction doesn't work on the flat Earth, that doesn't hold water whatsoever. That's the only place Andrew Thomas Young got his refraction. Optics.
Yeah, I'll translate that though. Their refraction only works on a globe because their terrestrial refraction, otherwise known as standard refraction, is 7/6 of the radius value. So their refraction only works on a globe because their refraction is based in mathematics, and so is their Earth curve.
So in order to save the radius they don't have, they change that radius they don't have. Right.
Right. Terrestrial refraction is the deglobifying formula to turn it back to a flat plane.
Right. So
Simple logic.
Say that again, Nathan.
Simple logic is. Can I say, Tentman, only one sentence?
Sure. Go ahead.
The logic is what Paul is saying. What I understand, it's this. You cannot see geometrical horizon, but he is projecting 10 miles away because of refraction or whatever.
But why does the model describe the geometric horizon as
you can
the
see
visible
behind that horizon? Do you understand? That's the point of Globers. They thinking that, at least I understand, Rumpus said a million times that we have two horizons. That means that horizon is projected 10 miles away. And that people who has a logic need to understand that that's the science, that we see mirage, or whatever that is. The horizon we cannot see because it's projected 10 miles away. That's the only reasonable answer.
Have we pulled this out to death? Should we move on? Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No. Except for that nonsense you got on your screen.
It's been a long time since somebody enthusiastically said, yes, we do. On that one, isn't it? Long time.
It's one of the most beautiful parts of the nonsense, if you ask me, because it is so clearly a just so story. They even tell you themselves.
Yep.
But Nathan, look at
Stop.
that picture you got on your screen.
Right.
That's not proof right there?
It's like a little sun in our own Earth.
It looks like a jawbreaker I ate when I was 8.
Yeah, like
Man.
a gobstopper.
Like a everlasting gobstopper. No, they were shaped like little men, weren't they?
I think they were like stars.
They're kind of like stars, I suppose, yeah. Little pokey things, everlasting gobstoppers. Nevertheless, any evidence of this self-perpetuating molten iron core that's supposed to be at the centre of this presupposed spherical Earth that only exists in maths?
No.
It exists in maths? How? Is there any calculation about it? Does it really exist in math? Or is it just a just so story?
It's just a just so story.
Right.
Well,
I don't think they even have a model for it, really. That's
hold on.
official.
It only exists in the maths. You made the same mistake 10th Man made earlier. Does it exist in the maths? Yeah, it definitely exists in the maths. Only exists in the maths.
Yeah, but can you show that maths to me?
Yeah,
That's what
very
I
easily.
need.
There's plenty.
Do they even have a model for it?
Yeah, if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to the horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That would be the modus tollens based on their assertion with a radius of 3959. Or see any curve calculator.
Nathan, I only made that mistake
What?
earlier because I had multiple thoughts.
We were talking about the molten iron core, right?
Yeah, it's a presupposed spherical Earth with a radius of 3959, and their rhetoric and their story has that exact presupposed spherical Earth with a molten iron core. Now, you've asked, is it just a just so story based on maths? Well, yeah, the reason you've got a core is because you've got a spherical Earth. And the just so story is Theia smashed into us when we were a small planet and deposited its core, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. I think we may be talking slightly past one another because I was talking about the molten iron core part. Like, where is that in the math, or is that literally just molten iron core? That a story tag that is tagged on to the R-based mechanisms for the globe and all that. Because where's the calculations? Where's the model for that? To me, it
I
just
see.
seems
It's-
like
it's
maybe
painting some
because-
stories.
I can answer
Everything
that.
what is spherical inside is molten.
I can answer that. So there's a necessity based on their timeline. So based on their timeline, we shouldn't have a core at all. It should have cooled down already, based on how long they say it took for this nonsense world based on presuppositions of R values and the lights in the sky having the same R values and Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion giving us all this time and distance. Well, when they calculated all that out, we shouldn't have a core at all. Well, therefore, they had to invent a story to give us a bigger core, so it wasn't already cooled down, and enter Theia smashing into us and creating the moon with its debris. So yeah, that bit's just a just so story for the mathematics that lead us to the core that's non-existent at this point in time based on their story.
Right. Okay. But I guess that the basic decisions on the temperatures of the core and what it's supposed to be, right, that is pretty much arbitrary. It's just wet finger work decisions, right?
If you were to say arbitrary in the maths, then no. I'm sure there's a very good reason within the maths that's an abstraction that isn't translatable to physical reality. There's probably a very good reason within the abstraction. Now, in terms of our physical reality, we don't have a sphere beneath our feet, and we definitely don't have a molten iron core that's been created by another planet smashing into us. Planets are nonsense. We're not on a planet, and the lights in the sky aren't planets. So it's just a complete load of old nonsense to justify a philosophical model. But yeah, the mathematics of it probably do have a justification that if, I just don't want to leave that out there so someone comes along and goes, hey, in this mathematical abstraction, no, there's very, very reasonable reasons why we've come to the conclusion we've got an oversized core because of Theia. Here you go, here's all the maths. Here it all works in the abstraction.
All right. I was kind of hoping to pull a Glober out of the shed with that.
We can by asking them to show it in physical reality. It's always finding that bridge, like we talked about with Al-Biruni earlier. Where does it go from reification from a mathematical construct, i.e. an abstraction, to claim to be in physical reality? If you can find that little bridge and then just jump on it and see how flimsy it is, that's where you have a good laugh, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I want to find that 5% differential bridge right there. That's what I want to know.
Right. So now
Where do they
I'm
get that
curious.
5%?
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm done.
Right. But I'm just, with the Alberuni thing, it's like, yeah, I kind of want more. So who came up with these numbers for the molten iron core? What is that based on? Who basically determined that it was that? Just like who determined the distance to the sun, right?
Yeah, gotcha. You want to pin it to somebody. So in the same way as we can say, right, Huygens just decided that Venus was the same size as Earth.
Right.
Well, you can pin it on that dude, right?
Exactly. So I'm wondering who came up with the set numbers for the molten iron core originally. Because you do know about the supposed distances to the sun and all that, and even historically recorded how it all changed. Oh no, we got it more precise now, right? But I don't know any such stories about the molten iron core concept. None at all.
Anthony's fairly well versed. If Sleeping Warrior shows his head at some point, shows his face rather. Just ask him. He knows all about it. Far more than I do.
Okay, I will. Thanks.
Any evidence of, where are we? Axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? No wheels, please.
No. Earth is stationary. Definitely.
No motion detected.
As he's come up several times already, Sleeping Warrior gave me a ring the other day and I think it's bugged him that he hasn't got a firm or as firm a grip on the Coriolis arguments as he would like. So there's been a few times where he's got in touch. One was yesterday, and he gave me an example of somebody who was arguing with him, talking about a plane and throwing a ball back and forth in the plane, and he was like, is this Coriolis effect? I'm like, no, it's not Coriolis effect, because Coriolis effect is what you observe. And the example, it could be of a plane seeming to curve because you're rotating underneath. So in other words, to have Coriolis effect in any example, you must be detailing what you see or what is seen from a spinning platform. And in the case of the claim that Earth is spinning, Earth is claimed to rotate underneath a plane, and therefore you see the curve of that path seeming to deviate from its straight path because you're rotating underneath according to the claim that Earth is spinning. Well, if you're looking up at a plane and seeing it seem to drift, seeming to curve when it's not really curving, that's really got nothing to do with what the plane's actually doing. It could be flying loop-de-loops. All that matters is that from your vantage point, it seems to drift when it doesn't. That's Coriolis drift. But it's the observation from the spinning platform. So to debunk the claim that spinning Earth even exists, you say, okay, fine, well, let's just take that as read. So I'm on a spinning Earth, and I'm looking up at a plane. And the plane's travelling straight, but from my vantage point, it looks like it's curving. It looks like it's taking a deviated path. It isn't. It's just the Earth rotating underneath the plane. And if the Earth's rotating underneath the plane for you to see it take a curved path, then the flight time must be reduced if it's travelling west. Because Earth's rotating underneath it so that I can see it seem to curve. Now, at no point in that description does it matter about how fast the plane's going, what direction it's taking, or anything. Just that I see it seem to curve from the ground that's claimed to spin underneath it. And if it's spinning underneath that plane, it's shortening that plane's flight time for me to have the Coriolis effect that Earth is claimed to have. Now, in reality, for me to see that curving plane, when it's not really curving, it's just me spinning underneath the plane, and the plane travelling over the top of something that's spinning, yeah, that must shorten flight times and does not. So that's the argument in its entirety, as concise as I can make it. So Sleeping Warrior says, is throwing a ball anything to do with Coriolis on the plane? No. Just you seeing that plane seem to curve. And if you are experiencing Coriolis from a spinning Earth, then the flight time's got to be reduced because you're watching a plane seem to curve as Earth turns underneath the plane. And it doesn't. No flight times are reduced. Doesn't matter what the plane's speed is, or its engines, or it's doing the loop-de-loop. Doesn't matter. Just that you turn underneath that plane, shortening the flight times to have Coriolis on a claim to be spinning Earth.
I was talking to one of my friends about this yesterday, and at the end of it, he asked me that very question. He said, wait a minute. So if what you're saying is true, how the hell could we ever get from California to New York if the Earth is spinning in that direction faster than the plane is moving? I said, well, you tell me. How is that happening? They said, well, it doesn't. And I say, well, there you go. Welcome to flat Earth. Simple as that.
Yeah, to have Coriolis effect on an Earth that's claimed to spinning, you've got to see things leave the claim to be spinning reference frame and deviate because they're not attached to it anymore. That's all Coriolis effect is. And if you're watching things seem to deviate because Earth's turning underneath them, then Earth's turning underneath them. So you lift off in a helicopter and Earth turns underneath it. That doesn't happen. You lift off your drone from the ground and Earth turns underneath it according to the claim that you can see it drifting. Well, drifting is drifting. It drifts away from you. Not because it's moving, because you're spinning underneath the drone. Does anybody ever experience this? No. Does Earth spin underneath planes? No. Does Earth spin under hot air balloons? No. Did Earth spin underneath Felix Baumgartner? No. Because Earth is not spinning. But the claim is we see Coriolis effect, which is us spinning underneath stuff and watching it seem to deviate. For example, Neil deGrasse Tyson says, ball gets kicked from claim to be spinning reference frame, leaving it and entering the air. And anybody watching that ball from the stands, watch it seems to curve into the goal. Seems to curve. It's actually travelling straight, but Earth's turning under the ball, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson. Well, if it's turning under the ball because it's left the spinning Earth, then the plane is also leaving spinning Earth, and you can look up at the plane and go, oh, look, that plane seems to be curving, just like the ball Neil deGrasse Tyson claimed was curving, because we're spinning underneath it. Well, if we're spinning underneath a plane to see it seem to drift, then we're spinning underneath it, and that's bringing the continent it's travelling to when travelling west to it. That doesn't happen, disproving that we spin, because we don't have Coriolis effect. We don't observe it. It's a real effect. Just need a roundabout, and you sit on it, and you look at anything that's not on the roundabout. It seems to move. You look at a lamppost from a roundabout that's spinning, the lamppost seems to move. It's not, it's concreted into the ground, but you're spinning underneath it. That's Coriolis effect. Anything not on the spinning platform, like a ball with Neil deGrasse Tyson's example, it's left the spinning Earth, and therefore we see it seem to curve. It's really travelling straight, but we're turning underneath it. Like we'd be turning underneath an aeroplane, shortening its flight time, or turning underneath a helicopter, bringing a continent to it. None of those things actually happen. We don't have Earth-based Coriolis effect. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I'm sorry.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No evidence for the distance to the sun.
No? Nobody gonna parrot off Huygens without realising it? No? Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Keyword is pressure. And no, to have pressure, it must be pressing upon something.
So when I did my intro this morning for the pre-show, I opened the mic on the Discord server, and Neil and his son are having a full-on discussion about this. It was really interesting. At one point, he's like, help me out, Nathan. I'm like, you don't need it. You're doing really well. But he's just discussing it with his son, and his son's disagreeing. You don't need a container. And then when we get to the point of concession, he's like, well, if we've got a dome, what about us not constantly increasing the pressure? In other words, the concession that, well, we must have containment to have gas pressure gets brushed past with a load of questions for us. And me, I had to launch into, I don't have to prove it.
That was a continuation from this morning, because we were on 24/7, and I was having that same discussion with Neil and his son. And yeah, he's arguing for why doesn't the air pressure fill the container. I'm saying, well, how do we have any of the pressure in the first place if in your model we don't have a container? But, you know, obviously they don't like to focus on that.
No, they want to brush past it and start asking us questions about the dome that we pump 52 million a day into proving and getting people to be convinced we've got, even though we make absolutely no claim of it, beyond the second law of thermodynamics assertion that we must have containment to have pressure. Just a natural law, just a law of nature.
Yeah, I
It's
wish that
interesting.
my son it's in layers.
Go on, Neil.
Whoever that was on 24/7 told my son that the gas is in layers. That was a big mistake.
Yeah, layers or otherwise, to have a gas pressure gradient, you still require containment. We have dynamic systems here. Again, this isn't a necessary requirement. So in the first days of us getting to grips with this argument, again from QE, big kudos to QE, he wouldn't answer this question. It's like, why do I have to tell you why we have a gas pressure gradient? We don't have a sky vacuum. Let's just hear you concede. We don't have a sky vacuum because without the container there can be no pressure, end quote, Conspiracy Cats 2019. So you must have containment.
Yeah, that's the position I'm taking.
Yeah, you don't have to explain what the sky is or how gas works. There's no necessity to do that. Just debunk the sky vacuum. Again, once this was all concluded, do you have anything to add to that before I waffle on, Neil?
No, I'm good.
So in the pre-show, I gave the example which I've given a few times now, Thunderfoot. Now, Thunderfoot, I'm calling out because he's punting something, he's selling something, he's selling the religion of heliocentrism, the globe earth cult. He's punting that. Now, he might not be aware, but hopefully few people will let him know that he's punting something, selling something. He's a shill. So anyway, the shill that is Thunderfoot debunks things like vacuum tumble dryers, and he gives practical demonstrations and mathematics to show how their claims are false. Now, does he have to then produce a working prototype that shows how it is possible to effectively and efficiently dry clothes with vacuum power? No, he does not. He can just take a giant dump on the claim that the product does what they say it does and show how it can't do what they say it does. He doesn't have to actually do what they claim. He doesn't have to prove anything. Likewise, when it's claimed that the sky is a vacuum, I can say, no, that stands in violation of natural law. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas would fill the space. It's entropy. Gas just moves at high speeds to fill the available volume it has to fill. And if the sky is a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, as you claim, it's a huge amount of area for that gas to fill. Gas just moves at high speeds and doesn't stop until it hits something. So it's just going to fill that volume if it's a sky vacuum, so it can't be. Oh, well, then prove the dome. What are you talking about? I haven't made any claim about a dome. Second law of thermodynamics dictates that the gas would fill the space. It's called entropy, so the sky's not a vacuum. Let's have a concession? Nah. No, you've got to show me how you would dry clothes in a practical vacuum that does work. You need to show me a working tumble dryer. No, I don't. I don't need to tell you what the sky is.
Well, they show us every time NASA does something, or SpaceX, or any one of these sub-agencies, their supposed astronauts are going into the vacuum of space, and they have to have an enclosed capsule. They have to carry their own oxygen, their own everything. So in a vacuum, they dare not open a hatch because all their oxygen would escape and fill the available space. Isn't that apparent?
Yeah, it seems like they're laughing. You know, again, I pointed this out last time we talked about Thunderfoot. So when he's giving this example with his tumble dryer, he's got a picture of Earth in space, and he's describing the thermodynamics laws that need to be applied to the equipment required to keep men out in space. Now, while he's saying all this, he's got a picture of Earth in violation of natural law, with gas pressure clung to the outside in a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, not filling the space. We move on?
Yep.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
Scientific evidence of what?
The reification fallacy that is gravity. Turning the mathematics of something which does not exist into something physical. You know, you can think of it as a force. That reification fallacy, gravity.
Well, you said it right there. They have admitted that it's not a force. So how could there be any scientific evidence of being a force?
There isn't. It's just reified into existence by Muppets.
Sorry. Just saying.
If it used to be a force, wouldn't it just continue to be a force? They wouldn't have to say, "Oh, now it's not a force." To me, that makes no sense. If it was actually a force in the first place, it would have just been continuing to do so. They wouldn't have had to change it and say, no, that's not a force. Now we call it the bending and warping of a conceptual medium. Yeah, that works better. Math. That's not even in the same geometry that we live in. That works.
If you can't prove it in physical reality, then just keep it in the maths. Keep it in the abstract. It's far easier. Don't create a bridge like Al-Biruni did between the reification and mathematics. Don't do that. Just keep it in the mathematic, keep it in the pseudo-Riemannian 4 space that doesn't exist. Much easier.
Can you solve for it numerically or no?
Yes, you can solve it from numerically, but you can't solve it numerically.
Okay, that clears that up. Thanks.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Nope.
Not using the scientific method.
Nope. Seat of the pants, guesswork.
Michio Kaku always seems to have a nice wry smile when he's saying things like that. Have you ever noticed? Seems like a happy chap.
I mean, when he's saying things like, in science, we always say that you make observations, you have a theory, you make more observations, and it's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork. End quote.
He seems like such a happy guy when he's saying that. Oh no, it's just guesswork.
He's literally smiling when he says it.
Yeah.
He laughs. He's like, yeah, nobody that I know of in my field uses that. What are you, crazy?
Yeah, wait, the empirical method, the one that establishes cause, we don't use that. We're not using empirical method. No.
Surely you just.
You must be joking. We can be off by a factor of, what's the factor?
10 to 120th power.
When they play that clip out, he puts the number on screen. He's like, well, he's zeros just constantly scrolling down. Same goes for Dr. Becky. These people don't know what science is. She thinks it's a wondrous thing, science, because nobody knows the answer. Might change. It's like, no. Scientifically established data is empirical. You've either validated or invalidated that which you presumed at the hypothesis stage caused an effect you observed in nature. Then you go forth and perform systematic experimentation, either you or lots of other people who follow in your footsteps, to validate that which you assumed the cause was as the cause. And once you have done that, you have empirically validated it as the cause of the effect. That's science. It's not wondrous, it's empirical. It doesn't leave you not knowing, it leaves you knowing. But these people like Becky, Dr. Becky, I'm hesitant to call her that, don't have the slightest clue what science actually is. She thinks it's doing stuff on a computer.
I think these self-admissions from Michio Kaku and others is to protect them, because they could say, well, I said we could be off 10 to the 120th power, so I was off.
Yeah, they're telling you. Yeah, it's a reification fallacy. Quote, you can think of it as a force, end quote. George Musa, 2019. He's telling you. They're all telling you. Yeah, we don't use the empirical method. Yeah, it's guesswork. But that doesn't set off alarm bells for any of the religious zealots that think that they've got a sky vacuum. No. Oh, well, of course it's guesswork. That's acceptable. He's told us so. The man in charge said it was okay.
Well, quote, usually in science, if we're off by a factor of 2 or a factor of 10, we call that horrible. We say something's wrong with the theory. We're off by a factor of 10. However, in cosmology, we're off by a factor of 10 to the 120. That is 1 with 120 zeros after it. This is the largest mismatch between theory and experiment in the history of science. End quote, Michio Kaku.
Yeah, they're telling you.
Yeah, at least he's honest.
Well, almost sounds like bragging about it at this point.
Yeah, because he knows. He knows. He's not stupid. And he's telling you. It's only down to those people who perpetuate the lie. Because who are they lying to? We've established all of this in the last couple of months. Who are they lying to? Well, themselves. Who's the they that perpetuates the nonsense of the globe? Well, anybody that perpetuates it. And normally you can tag it down to particular parts like Andrew Thomas Young, specific details that might work their way into the rhetoric of other people who lied to themselves. But when you get back to the original source material, like Andrew Thomas Young, he tells you, we're taking geometric considerations. Not we've got a geometric horizon. Not we're measuring things because light is bending. No, we measure it all on a flat plane, but then we just take consideration of it being a globe. So they've told you. So when you read that and just say, oh, that makes it okay then. No. You can then either accept it as the philosophy that it is, or continue to reify it lying to yourself and telling everybody else like us that you're stupid for not reifying it into the religious belief you hold and perpetuate. So the they is you. If you're currently telling yourself you're on a globe, and when you finally come to the realization that that's total nonsense, it's just existing in maths, who's lied to you? You lied to yourself. You could have done a bit of research, and when you dug, like we have, and showed you, you'd see that they've told you it all along, that it was just a model, heliocentric model, right? Well, models aren't something you can stand on in physical reality. Just conceptualizations. They told you from the start, but you lied to yourself. You were foolish. You weren't deceived. You deceived yourself because they told you it was a model all along.
Yep.
That concludes the housekeeping. Bloody hell. How long was that housekeeping? 41-minute housekeeping before I got to the first super chat shout out. Shout out to Al Junkie. Says, live on a ball on holiday, question mark. Re-if vacation fallacy. Hey Brian, thank you very much for the super chat, Al Junkie.
Vacation.
Hey, Nathan, hey, everybody.
Hey, Brian.
Go, Brian, go.
Come on, Brian.
He did say hello. I heard him.
Yeah. I actually have a question if you're not talking about anything specific.
Go ahead.
Something I was asking Adam and I was asking QE last night. You know Einstein's theory of general relativity, where gravity is an effect due to the curvature of space-time by matter. Now, I can't at this present time, I haven't come across any information that says that this effect differs with the size of the mass. As in, it's an effect. Like, the horizon is the same effect, regardless of what it looks like today or tomorrow. It's the same visual effect. So, if this effect of gravity is caused by the curvature of space-time by matter, does the effect change in strength? I don't know if you can change the strength of an effect. Does the effect change in strength due to the size of the mass? And the reason I'm asking that is, if there isn't proof within Einstein's theory, not what Ballers might say or someone else might have added to it, unless there's proof within what Einstein actually said about his theory and laid forth about his theory of general relativity, then technically, if you accept Einstein's theory of general relativity, then you're automatically a moon landing denier. Because on the moon, people were bouncing around in their narrative. You understand what I'm saying?
Sort of.
What?
I'll just do a shout out to Rakir Life. Thank you very much for the super chat, Rakir. I won't read it. Carry on, Brian. Go ahead.
Yeah, the point I'm making is, if it's an effect caused by the curvature of space-time by matter, then the effect would be the same on the moon as on Earth and on everywhere else. It's just an effect caused by this curvature of space-time by matter. Is there any evidence to support that the effect would change in strength in accordance with the size of the mass? So okay, Earth is a bigger mass in that belief.
Yeah, so straight away, the first problem in your question is what's mass?
Yeah, that was exactly what Einstein said to me. Oh, sorry, Einstein said to me. Sorry, that's exactly what QE said to me. But I understand that, right, that mass is not clearly defined. But the point I'm making is, would it be in direct violation of the claim of the moon landings, considering the fact that they show these guys supposedly on the moon and at less weight due to a less gravitational...
Maybe someone else... I do see your connection now because you've explained it clearly. But that's a tangent that I would never take to debunk the moon landings. So I do see your point. And does it work? Well, I can't answer the question, and it's for the same reason I gave you before. If you say, why does something that is undefined cause the bending of a fourth dimensional conceptual medium? Why does that happen? And if that is the case, that this undefined specific substance, if you want to call it that, causes the time in the fourth dimension to bend, how would that affect them? It's just convoluted cluster screw. Just space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. The Earthrise picture shows an Earth in violation of natural law with gas not filling the space. Therefore, all those pictures are fake. The moon landings did not happen. You can't travel through a fake medium. They claim to have gone through the wardrobe. It's the metaphorical equivalent of travelling through the Narnia wardrobe. So, no, they haven't been to space through a medium of a vacuum. That's a lie. That's how I debunk it. Does the undefined mass causing the conceptual medium of space-time bending debunk the moon landing? Maybe, if you work that convoluted argument to a fine point. Maybe. It's much quicker to just debunk the medium they claim they travelled to get there, though.
So I understand. From a debating point of view, what you're saying, 100% agree. No doubt about it. You just end the argument there and then. But I was just pointing out the contradiction that anyone on the border side that would, if they can't prove that there's a difference in the strength of the supposed effect of gravity due to a differing size of mass, then then that means they're in violation of the moon. It's just a big contradiction they have then. That means then people are in contradiction of moon landing. The moon landing.
I do see your point.
You're hooking it on a technicality. Well, if you don't do that, and because you can do that in every part of it, of course, because that's what the globe model is, then the more mass it has, the more space-time is bent, causing the supposed gravity.
What's mass?
You can think of as mass being attracted by mass, but it's basically not defined. That would be the answer.
Precisely, Arwen.
May I add to this?
Is that
did you
from Einstein or is that from you?
Did you know what Arwen just said? Because he said it much more concisely than I did.
Yeah, I understood what Arwen said, but ballers will say the same thing to me, similar to what Arwen said. But is that defined by Einstein, or is that someone else putting their stamp on it?
It's defined by Einstein.
May I add to this?
Go ahead.
Anytime you beg the question, they can make up stuff. So just because they can't define it for you today, based on your question, Brian, they'll find a way to reify it and make it up tomorrow.
Precisely.
I think what Nathan is saying is more precise, which is, let's talk about reality. You're dealing with 4 dimensions and a conceptual medium called time. So what are you saying time does?
Exactly. So what 10th Man's saying is, Brian's working within the mathematics, he's working within the abstraction and saying, does this not work within their own abstraction? And what 10th Man's saying is, well, I'm pointing out Nathan saying that just bring it back to reality. Let's not worry about whether or not it works in the abstraction, because they'll figure out a way.
Look, as far as debating goes and everything else, I 100% agree. I'm not even disagreeing with that you're saying. It's just, my point was, it just throws a spanner in the works for them. It's like,
no, but see, you're using...
One second, Tent. Just let me finish what I'm saying. The thing that they have to accept now, because they have to leave go of Newtonian or Cavendish era, right? The thing they have to accept now goes in direct violation of their supposed moon landings and NASA.
No, I agree.
It doesn't matter to me because from a debate point of view, I wouldn't debate that in that way.
But how?
If the effect is no different, right? According to Einstein.
Based on what? The effect is no different. Based on...
I'm saying if the effect...
Not defined and not clear?
I didn't say definite. I didn't make the claim it was. I'm not making any claims about it. I'm saying if the effect can't be shown within what Einstein wrote about it to be different in accordance with the different sizes of different masses, then that means that what people were shown about the moon landings is in direct violation of Einstein, and he's in direct violation.
All right, I see where you're getting at. I got a better one though. How about his field equations can't even handle the moon as a separate mass.
This was Brian's point, Alwyn. Brian was the one who started that. You realise that, right?
Oh.
Yeah, it's Brian's point. That's one of Brian's points.
But I think that the equation itself is more of a hint, like there can be a mass there in the math. But then, the whole Newton and Einstein situation.
Hold on, just 1 second, Alwyn.
It is like a paradox enclosed between two explanations, and they just carry it around together, but it's never completed. That's what it's become. It never closes, but they always use it anyway.
Just 1 sec. Did you want to add something, Mies Poo? Because I'm having to constantly close the Discord line because you just sat with your mic open eating cereal or something. Do you want to add something?
Sorry.
Can you pop yourself on mute, please? Brian, did you
Nathan,
want to...
I'm in Discord. I got something to say. Sorry.
I just want to see if Brian's got something he wanted to conclude with. He's right. It doesn't work within their I was going to say reification, but it's not. It's within the abstraction it doesn't work. That's Brian's point. He's saying you can throw a spanner. If they must beg the question and work within this abstraction, then he's saying, well, I can still throw a spanner in the works. That's what he's basically saying.
Yeah, I can't say it's a worth having as an argument. I mean, debating with. I mean, obviously, what you're saying from Virgo just debunks the whole lot. Forget it. I understand that totally. You're totally correct. I'm just pointing out some stuff to do with Einstein and their contradictions. I actually even have something else, but I won't go into it now. Maybe a bit later. But I'm going to be driving, so I might hear what's being said, and I'll get back a little bit later. Okay. Thanks, Nathan.
No, thank you.
Before
Paul, did you want to?
Before Paul, okay.
Go, Paul. Go. Paul? Got nothing from you, Paul. Alrighty then. Go ahead, 10th man.
All right. Mic check. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Arguing within an abstraction can go on forever because it just makes stuff up as it goes. There's nothing to prove. You can't prove it. It's out there. So why even get into an argument?
I'm in Google Hangouts now. Sorry.
All right, Paul, you can come in now.
Okay, sorry. That's better.
Before you do, Paul, hold on. That was an excellent point. Sorry, I just want to reiterate what 10th Man said. It was the best point so far. If you're working within the abstraction, and paraphrasing what 10th Man just said, it can go on forever because it's not reality. So yeah, absolutely correct, 10th Man. Go ahead, Paul.
The only thing I would say is that their argument is going to be it's the amount of matter or mass, right? It's any amount of matter. If you had the same volume of gold as you would as the same volume of aluminum brick, they're exactly the same volume. According to their rhetoric, the gold would have a more gravitational force than the aluminum would. So it's not the volume that's the issue within the rhetoric. It's the amount of, or the density, or whatever you want to call it, of the substance.
It's the distribution of the mass, which is undefined.
Right. So, but that's where they would go. They would go like the gold would have more gravitational force than the aluminum with the same volume.
Alrighty then. So, I know Brian's just said, yeah, I understand. I just want to work within the reification. I keep saying that. Within the abstraction. I want to take it to the real level, to the where does this actually exist in our physical reality? Oh, right, the sky is not a vacuum. Therefore, moon landing's very easy to debunk. They definitely didn't traverse the wardrobe. I mean, space.
Yes, can I?
Visible from the moon, despite there supposedly being some air pressure there, according to the latest.
Don't forget it. Yeah, I was going to say, don't forget about the remix story now that the Earth's atmosphere actually extends out past the moon now. So there's always that.
Right. Originally, I think they used it as an excuse as why there weren't any stars because the atmosphere requires that and blah, blah, blah. Well, how does that work when there is now some atmosphere there? You know? like these little
Well,
details.
that still doesn't work because they're supposedly in a tin can that's supposed to be in like 250 miles up that they can't see stars from. So again, do they see stars or do they not see stars? They can't decide. So.
Yeah, I was going to say they can't even decide that. Depends which astronaut you ask. Sometimes they're as bright and as amazing as they could possibly be. Sometimes it's so pitch black you can't see anything. Depends who you ask.
So maybe it's just personal. Maybe
Well,
one
guy you can ask, he will say both. Hatfield, I believe, said one time it was bright as
Is that
bright.
Collins?
And then the other time said it was black as black.
Yeah,
So they
literally
can't
changed
even
the story.
decide with that.
Can I bring it back to the atmospheric refraction at the beginning of the show we were trying to talk about?
Depends. Got any proof of R?
Yeah, so QE put up the atmospheric refraction and the 5 effects of it, or, let me just mention them: miraging, looming, towering, stooping, and sinking. So when they're going through this, they have to stick to what those things are. So when I go to looming and sinking, it's talking about something sinking in relationship to the horizon, so it'd go below the horizon. And when it comes to looming, it's something in relationship to the horizon, and something that's below the horizon is loomed above the horizon. Now, these ballers who come on this show trying to tell us that the horizon itself is being affected by any one of these refraction points are missing their own schooling.
You want a quote?
So,
quote
well,
from
I haven't
Rumpus. Rumpus, 2017. You know it's looming because of its position with respect to the horizon. End quote, Rumpus, 2017.
Yep. Yeah, the apparent horizon is looming above the geometrical horizon that you can't see.
Yeah, exactly, Alwyn. We covered this earlier, and I was quick to point out that the transition, the bridge in Andrew Thomas Young is where he derives a second horizon. Now, we only have one horizon. An apparent position, meaning you can see it where the sky meets the land or sea. That apparent position is apparent for 2 reasons. 1, you can see it, apparent meaning you can see it. 2, apparent meaning not actual, because the sky doesn't actually touch the land or sea. But as soon as you have a second geometric, quote-unquote, horizon, that's not a position that's visible, not apparent, and isn't demarcating either sea, land, and sky, then it's not a horizon. We only have one horizon. It's just not the geometric horizon in their maths. That only exists in maths.
Always look for the double speak segue when they say things like, but in the real world, or, we must talk about geometric considerations for a curve. They always tell you that.
Well, Chocolate QE is quoting Andrew Thomas Young here. Looming, the appearance above the horizon of a distant object that would normally be hidden below it. The effect is caused by unusually large terrestrial refraction. And what is terrestrial refraction based on?
7/6 of the radius value, which would give you a geometric horizon. And with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. As I say, unfortunately, if you're watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!